Hello, everybody, and welcome to our very special webinar today. We're going to discuss how the decline of civility is increasing D&O losses at community associations across the U.S. I'm Marketing Manager Sherry Branson, and I'm now joined by Kevin Davis, the president of Kevin Davis Insurance. Hey, Kevin.
Here we go. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, this is the first time in my new office here, and as we moved into another place, and I'm not used to this environment yet. It's kind of interesting, and anyway, it, it'll be okay.
Yeah, it's always an adjustment when you're in a new space, with new lighting situations and windows and all that kind of stuff. And but I've heard it's a beautiful office. Oh, well, I've been in there a couple of times, and I know it's
Mhm.
really a beautiful location and a great office, and the move went really smooth. Hope you had a nice 4th of July, Kevin. I hope everybody out there had a nice 4th of July. I went snorkeling. I have a little bit of a
Oh
cold, but
well.
feeling fine. Yeah, I was in the Virgin
Uh,
Islands for the first time. That was great. Beautiful snorkeling, so that was a lot of fun.
oh well. Okay. All right. That's
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And Kevin, we've got a great webinar today. We haven't done a webinar in July in quite a while. We've usually missed July. We have a good crowd with us today. What are we going to talk about today? What's our goal?
Well, this is interesting. Okay. Over every 6 months, okay, we look at and review our claims to see what's going on in our claims, what we're seeing, any trends. And I have to tell you, over the past 6 months, the one trend that we've been seeing is large claims. And I look at anything over $500,000. I look at and I go through a thorough examination of what's going on, why. And have to tell you, Sherry, the one thing that I'm seeing over and over again is civility, is that we're just not acting as well as we should be doing. So our goal today really is to examine the financial consequences of living in these community associations that are not civil to each other. And what we did was pick claims that I've seen this year that either the reserves are set up or they've been taken care of. But I'm looking at numbers here and saying we need to talk about this because this is one of those things where it's not sustainable. The rate that what we're seeing, and if we're seeing, I know our competitors are seeing it, and I know community associations are seeing it, and a lot of it has to do with the incivility in our community associations. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely. And we're going to be talking about some pretty large claims today, Kevin. Several of them are over $1 million. And I did want to take a second to mention that if anybody has any questions today about what we're going over, please type your questions into the questions box. And if we have time at the end of today's webinar, we'll answer your questions. And I also record all of the webinars. So if you'd like a copy of the recording, let me know as well. And if you have any questions after the webinar or would like a copy of the PowerPoint, please send me an email to sherry.branson@amwins.com. I'm happy to send you a copy of today's PowerPoint. And Kevin, today, like you said, we're going to talk about incivility as opposed to me taking my neighbor's trash cans in for them if they blow in the middle of the street, which I did a few
hmm
weeks ago during a
hmm
windstorm. Their garbage cans were just sitting in the middle of the street, so I brought their cans in. So that was civil behavior. But today we're going to talk about incivil behavior.
Exactly. And we look at the definition of incivility, right? Um, it's rude, disruptive behavior that shows lack of respect for others. I mean, and
Mhm.
that's what we're talking about. You're right. You did the exact opposite of what should be doing, but we're seeing rude, disruptive behavior. And again, a lot of it has to do with the world we're living in now, the lack of trust we have in institutions. Um, and for what I see in a lot of these claims is we start to see that people live in community associations have a, I look through it as a distorted, I call it a distorted lens, and they're
Mhm.
looking at these people, the board members, and you look at committee members and the property managers as people who are not on the same side as they are. That they are the
Mhm.
enemy, that they're the they people that are not doing their job properly, that they are either incompetent or they're stealing, they're not behaving in the way they should be behaving. And that
Mhm.
just seemed to be the issue here is that incivility for community associations is these are people who live in community associations who just lack that trust and that faith in that and the people who run that community association. So as we get into it, we'll talk more and more about it, basically on the four claims that we've seen that really demonstrate this thing the greatest. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they're really coming from all different aspects, from trust, communication, et cetera. There's lots of different ways that these claims are coming in and different issues that are popping up.
Yeah, what I did was divide them up into four categories. I looked at the claims, okay? And there's four distinct categories of the claims that we're looking at so that we can capture it, you know? Like number one, communication failures, okay? Probably one of the top areas that we see claims is that the board of directors of community association are not communicating properly people who live there, especially when it comes to money issues. When it comes to money issues, special assessments and regular assessments, um, and they always throw out the same thing that the rules, the laws, the things you're doing are unreasonable. They create a pattern. This right there is the number one thing that we see all the time, the communication failure. The
Hmm.
second one is trust. When you live in a community association and you have that narrow look at things, that distorted lens, the first thing you do is see that it's not of trust there, you know, and a lot of
Hmm.
times not of trust because of a lack of communication. If you don't
Right.
communicate properly, it's going to lead to that lack of trust.
Hmm.
The next one is that board owner conflict. Because what happens is like what you said you did, you help the neighbors by moving their trash cans. The problem is we have unit owners, instead of helping a neighbor with the trash cans, they go to the board and complain that based on, the procedure and the documents and the association bylaws, that they have to remove those trash cans within 48 hours. If you don't
Hmm.
remove them 48 hours, what happens? You get fined, and the unit owners are the ones who are constantly harassing the board to say, guess what? You have a fiduciary duty to make sure these things get done, to make sure the trash cans get done, make sure you have timely meetings, make sure they do these things. And again, from the unit owner's point of view, they look through that lens, and the first thing comes to mind, I can't believe the board of directors are so bad at what they do. You know, we
Hmm.
need better board members. We need to be able to have somebody we can count on that we can trust. So it's
Hmm.
always been going back to that.
Hmm.
And then
Especially
the
once they
final
start
one,
fining people, sending out fines and things like that for
yeah,
not putting away the trash cans, et cetera. Hmm.
and the final one is inconsistent, arbitrary rule enforcement. Again, this would drive people crazy. So if I'm parked in visitors parking and nothing happens to me, but all of a sudden, Sherry, you park in visitors parking, and then all of a sudden you get fined and you get the violation letters. Now all of a sudden you're not happy, and boom. You're not going to be friendly and go out next door and go, okay, I know you're not parked in visitors parking correctly. Can you please start? You're going to go to the board of directors, and you're going to start. That's so much you're going to file a claim against them. But again, what you're going to do is raise the temperature to the point where a claim is possible. And when these claims happen, they can be very, very expensive.
Absolutely. Yes, very expensive. And there's just so many areas like we just discussed that they could come from that the possibilities are really endless. Absolutely. And if people feel they're being treated fairly, that's a big one.
Okay,
And-
so let's jump into these claims. So what we're going to do now is go into, four claims, actual claims based on the communication, trust, um, arbitrary enforcement of documents, and these things. So here we got the first one. You ready? You ready, Sherry?
I'm ready.
Okay. First one we got. Loss amount $750,000. Okay, stay with me here. So you got a claim, you got an owner's claim, individually and a derivative capacity, that the association breached a fiduciary duty by hiring a property manager who they believe was not qualified.
Okay. Now,
Okay.
I'm sure, I don't know if I haven't heard of derivative capacity before, Kevin.
Yeah.
A lot of legal terms, that can you explain what exactly is that?
Okay, so they sue on behalf of themselves as an individual, but they also sue on behalf of the corporation because they believe the corporation did not act in the best interest of the people who live there. They acted in bad faith. The
Okay.
corporation itself was harmed. So now you got two different things going on at the same time. She's suing individually and on behalf of the board. This is what she believed. She believed that the board attempted to conceal payments made by the association to work that was done in individual unit owners. Okay. So they
Oh,
came in and the property manager came in and did work with individual unit owners. Okay. And
right.
then this is this accusation. They accuse the board members of receiving kickbacks and work getting done by the property manager in exchange for renewing the contract.
Ah, okay. So there was a lot going on in this claim.
Yeah, a lot
There's a
going on.
lot
And,
going on.
and again, what's happening here, you have this one person who's upset, okay, because she's perceived that all these things are going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, on top of that, okay, and this is the thing that we're seeing more and more. The association also, this person's claiming the association failed to properly maintain the common areas, failed to have proper reserves, and the board violated several procedures. Okay, like having timely meetings.
Meetings.
Yeah, trash cans, let the trash can sit for more than 48 hours, those kind of things. So on top of everything else, this is what's going on.
So this is a complicated claim, very
Yeah,
complicated.
but
Lots of different levels to it.
this level, that's why it's 750. But again, going back to civility, going back where we're talking about here, this is about trust. You know,
Hmm.
you have this person because we don't know if there's concealment. We don't
Right.
know if there were
Has to be
kickbacks.
investigated. Has to be
It has to be
investigated. Mhm.
investigated. But what happens is this person assumed it was going on because she doesn't have trust in the association. There's perception there of favoritism.
Right.
There's a perception there that there are secrecy, there are things happening that she doesn't know about.
Right.
Okay. And
Yep.
that's kind of things that we talk when we look at these claims here, we start to see something in there that makes us think that could have been small, okay? That could have been
Hmm.
handled really very, very quickly and efficiently, um,
Hmm.
but for the lack of trust.
Right. Right. It just kept growing and growing and growing until it turned into this size of a claim,
Yeah. Yep.
getting
Mhm.
worse and worse.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
Let's go to
that's
number two.
Colorado, and now we go to New Jersey, Kevin, your home state.
Yes. Yes. All right. Here we go. A suit was filed against the board member, and the property manager failed to disclose two multi-million-dollar assessments at a luxury waterfront condominium in New Jersey.
Okay. Did you say multi-million dollar assessment?
Multi-million-dollar assessment.
Okay.
Okay.
That
Now,
that yeah.
the association consisted of mid and high-rise buildings and a townhome not connected to the mid and high-rise buildings. Okay, so you got different buildings out there. You got that,
Okay.
right?
Multiple buildings.
Multiple buildings. So the association began to address the problems they were having, the structural problems they were having. Okay, in the mid and high rise buildings only, because all of the things that need to be done was in the mid to high rise buildings. The cost of repairs was between 10 to $50 million over a 20-year period.
Okay. Not
Okay,
inexpensive repairs at
yeah,
all.
10 to
Mhm.
50 million over a 20-year period. Now, the initial assessment was passed, and all unit owners had to pay the $10 million, had to pay cumulative to $10 million. Okay. Then a second assessment was adopted for $47.7 million.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
I
guess what
see where
happened after
I
that?
see where this is going. I can
Yeah,
see where this is going.
yeah. As soon as that happened, now all of a sudden, notice of lawsuits come. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
here we go. We can use that word again. Lawsuit was filed by both individually and derivatively. Derivatively, okay,
Hmm.
including 100 unit owners who signed an affidavit in support of the derivative action.
Hmm.
Also named in the suit were the realtors, attorneys, the appraisers, all the professionals that were involved in the sale of the association, along with the association and the property manager.
Wow.
Okay, now here it is. The owner said that the association, along with its co-defendants, failed to provide information at their time of purchase about the ongoing maintenance issues as well as the potential costs.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
They
they
didn't
believe that the
disclose.
board
There's
had
no
an
disclosure.
obligation to provide that
They,
information. Yep,
of course, yeah,
yep,
disclosure.
yep. It was
Yeah.
not disclosed.
And
Yep.
I'm sure, Kevin, people, joining us today, the amount on the screen that we have for for this is 1 million. And we talked about 47 million and 10 million in assessments. What does that represent, the 1 million?
Okay, so the claims we're talking about right now is where we think we could be at right now. It's probably $1 million because it's probably $1 million limit on the policy. Okay. These are
Okay.
actual numbers that we're looking at for claims. I would say this is $1 million policy. That's why it's a limit loss.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. And even we got to top it off about the one part. The people who live in the townhomes we talked about earlier, they're complaining because they're paying assessments. And guess what? They're not part of the mid-rise buildings.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're caught up in the whole thing.
All right. So
Mhm.
at the bottom line is the owners of the unit owners are looking for the return of the amount of money they paid and a determination that they should not be liable for any other payments made by the special assessment.
Mhm. That makes sense.
Yeah. So again, what kind of problem we have here? Communication, 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 communication. Okay.
Mhm.
If they were communicated what's going on to everybody all along, it doesn't mean that it won't be sued. Okay. Even the first one we talked about, the trust issue, it doesn't mean we can be sued or not be sued. What it means is that, like from a historical point of view, our claims like this used to cost 30, 40, $50,000, maybe even $100,000. But because of the feeling that the people who live in this community association are not being heard, not being treated properly, now all of a sudden we're talking about $1 million claims, limit losses on our D&O policies. And again,
Mhm.
this is all the things I've looked at in the past 6 months.
Mhm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's based on that one thing, civility, you know, you know,
Mhm.
boards has to do their job, communicate properly, and the people who live there has to listen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're buying a unit and you get hit with an assessment of that size, or really any large assessment, I mean, of course, somebody's going to feel like something, you know, that it was being hidden, that it was being hidden from them, which is not right.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Next one's our
Okay.
largest one yet.
Okay. Yep. This one
Okay,
is 1.8 million, and this is
1.8
a
million. Yeah,
co-op. Now we're in New York, the
we're in
next
New
one.
York. Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Here it is. An individual purchased two penthouse units with a plan to renovate both units. Okay. They hired an engineer and they supposedly received confirmation that their plans were approved by the board in principle. Okay. Remember that
Okay.
word in principle, right? Okay.
Hmm.
As soon as you hear that, you start worrying, right? Okay. So later they submitted the plans, the formal plans to the board to renovate. The board had an in-person meeting where the plans were denied. Okay. Not only they were denied, but they also said they never received or approved any plans. Not only the ones that were in principle, but otherwise. So they did nothing.
Oh,
Okay.
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 So you're getting this two different stories.
Different stories. So the owner said that again that the denial was unreasonable and discriminatory. So they thrown a new word out there, discrimination. So now all of a sudden we got something new. So unreasonable and discriminatory. Okay. Now the owners requested documentation from the board because they're looking for information about it, but the board failed to produce the documents requested. And again, it's in violation of New York code, business code, because they have to give the documentation over.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a result of all of this, the owners are now looking for an award of damages. They're looking for damages, you know,
Hmm.
and for the association to perform their obligations by contract
Hmm.
and produce those documents they're looking for and attorney fees and costs. So all the stuff adds up to $1.8 million right now. Right now. And it could go up higher. I mean, this is just as we are. These are just pictures right now that we're looking at and seeing what's going on.
Absolutely. And one thing that stands out, Kevin, I see verbal approvals were later rescinded without explanation. Just what pops into my mind is when I've done webinars before with Rachel from Travelers, she recommended that board members do everything in writing, and document,
Yes.
you say
Mhm.
document, document, document.
Mhm.
So board members should always get things in writing via email, save copies of it in a file, etc. Whenever there's any kind of dispute or claim. So that way, if it's verbally done, there's no record.
And it's more important today than ever before because of civility. In other
Mm,
words, if I'm upset, because guess what? I want to have plans and you said it'd be okay. Now all of a sudden you're saying it's not okay. You're not really giving me a legitimate reason why. You're not giving me paperwork that I need. All of a sudden, it's heightened. Instead of
Yeah,
lowering the temperature, instead of
it makes
saying,
it
okay,
worse. It makes it
let's
worse.
let's work it out a little bit. You
Hmm.
end up with that board owner conflict that seems to
Hmm.
be so prevalent these days. And again, if I'm upset as a president and Sherry, you upset at the union only want to do it, guess what happens? It gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. You know,
And it turns into a big claim.
it goes into a big claim. It goes into a
Hmm.
big claim. And that's where we're at. And that's how these claims, these little claims that should be simple. So you give the plans. And if the plans are not, they don't meet the standards of the association, you say, guess what? Your plans don't meet the standards of the association.
Yeah, just be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that doesn't
But
mean you're
do it
not going to get
writing. Do it
sued.
in writing.
That doesn't
Hmm.
mean you're not going to sue, but it won't be $1.8 million. And that's all.
Hmm.
And that's the important thing of what we're talking about.
Hmm.
Okay.
hmm Communicate, communicate. Absolutely.
Okay. Let's go to the
Okay.
next one. This is what it was interesting. This is an interesting one because I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah,
But
this is a
again,
very unusual, very
yeah,
unusual.
yeah.
Hmm.
And it's funny because I haven't seen it, but it's the same thing we always see. So we have it's HOA, right? That has a private airport. Okay.
Hmm.
An individual purchased a lot in the airport. Okay. What he wants to do is park his large vehicles and he has a trailer. No airplane.
He has no airplane.
No
This is,
airplane.
just to explain, this is a neighborhood with a runway running
Uh-huh.
in the middle of it for people to fly
Yep.
their planes in and then park
Hmm.
in
Yep.
a taxiway in their driveway, etc. And but he has a lot of large vehicles,
Yep. And he was just
no
parking
plane.
inside. Yeah, the hangar's big enough to put all his stuff in there. Okay.
Hmm.
So he purchased it, and then soon after he finds out that the board restricted the rules,
Hmm.
limiting access to the airport runway only to aircraft only.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. So now all of a sudden he buys it for this reason and he can't do it. Not only he did that, but they also so she added a weight limit. So targeted vehicles. So those vehicles are too heavy to go on a runway and too heavy to be there.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Very
Yep.
interesting. It is a very interesting case. Yeah.
So the owner ended up suing the association for discrimination in the way it enforced the association documents because they had acted rules that specifically, targeted him.
Hmm. hmm
Okay. Now,
Wow.
again, where this goes to, we're talking about inconsistent or arbitrary rule enforcement. You know,
hmm
and that's what it is. Now, I don't even know, and we don't know if those rules were there before or they just added them there or anything. But
Right, right.
it,
I'm just curious what size vehicles these are. If they're heavier than an airplane, I'm just wondering, yeah, if they added them in later, like, that kind of a thing. Hmm.
yeah, but it doesn't. But the problem, though, at the end of the day, we have $680,000 because again, inconsistent arbitrary rules. Now, inconsistent arbitrary rules that yeah, we see those claims every single day. You know, they do that all the time, especially with pets, right? Inconsistent way to handle pets and parking. Those are the two things. And this is why I pulled this one out because this is a parking situation. This is how you park. They excluded it. They
Yeah.
say, hey, you're not allowed to do it because you're too heavy and you're not a plane.
It's not a plane.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, the problem for us is that from as we look at these claims and we talk about these claims, historically, these claims would be under $100,000. And we're seeing them more and more and more because there's tension between people who live in the community associations and the board of directors. And the
Mhm.
board of directors, instead of saying, okay, let's communicate, let's talk about it, they do things like this. And next thing you know, we're looking at a claim here to go, you know, how do you underwrite against this? How can you stop from having this? And then how much do you charge? How do you even come up with a premium that says, something like this happening? These
Mhm.
four things that we're talking about inconsistency, arbitrary rules enforcement, board owner conflict, trust, and communication these are the things that we're seeing. Okay. We've
Mhm.
always seen them, they're not new. But what's new
Mhm.
to it is civility, the lack of civility. People
Mhm.
are angry, people are anxious. These are the people who are going after the board. And the board of directors, instead of lowering the temperature and saying, let's communicate a little better, let's build trust and transparency, what they're doing is being angry. So, so let's go into some really good things that the boards can do to make
Mhm.
things just a little bit easier. Okay. And you mentioned some of them already. Use clear, respectful language. Okay. Again, as board of directors, they have to be able to understand if they're not using clear, respectful language. What happens is I'm offended as a person who lives there. Okay. If I'm offended person who lives there, I'm going to challenge you as a board because you didn't act in the best interest of the association. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
sue you individually and the derivative action against you also. That's where that
Mm-hmm.
comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Disclose key information early. Now, when we talk about the board director's responsibility, they just have three things they got to do. They have to collect assessments, okay? They have to maintain the association, okay, and enforce the rules. If you see a problem in any of those three areas, let people know. Disclose it. Communicate it. If you let the people know, they still can sue. They still can be mad at you. But guess what? You are now in a defensible position. So what we're saying right now is that you want to be able to go to court and say, guess what? You know, we gave clear language. We gave documentation. We showed them in association documents where we have to be able to pass special assessment. We have to maintain the association. We have to enforce the rules. Okay? That's defensible. So instead of paying a $1.8 million, guess what? It is $30,000, $40,000 like it used to be in the old day. Enforce the rules consistently and fairly. Acknowledge complaints in writing. If you haven't, put it in writing. Documents decisions and complaints carefully. The main one here, have a discrimination and harassment policy. Because we had two situations there where they said that they were discriminatory. I was discriminated against. And guess what? If you were in court and the judge says, do you have an anti-harassment policy, discriminatory policy, and you say no, guess what happens? Now we're talking about the $1.8 million as opposed to a $30,000, $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So these are the things that we've been seeing. And right now, what we want to do today is, we have a lot of agents, insurance agents and insurance specialists. Let your board members and property managers see these claims. Let them understand what we're seeing because our job is to make sure that we have a D&O policy that responds to their needs. And we'll make sure that it is there in the future. And the way we need help to get there, and that's what the board people have to understand. They have to be more civil in their communication and
Mm-hmm.
trust and transparency.
And careful. Mm-hmm.
Careful.
And Kevin, these claims are all from 2025, correct?
Well,
These
no,
are
it's
all.
not. No, no. Okay. These are all claims that I'm looking at today where this year where either A, they were settled or reserved. Most of these claims are like passed since 2022,
Oh, okay.
2021.
Okay.
They started there. Now we're at a point where
Started
they get
there
to
and
a
now they're
point where
settling. Mm-hmm.
either settling or the reserves are set up or something's happening there that it came past my desk. So I'm looking at it right now and going, okay, what's going on right now? What's happening? And a lot of the stuff I believe is because we live in a post-COVID world. Okay. Before this COVID, guess what? We're more civil to each other. But
Mm-hmm.
guess what happens now, 2 o'clock in the afternoon? We're home and we're working from home. And guess what's happening when working from home? Somebody's playing pickleball, or the kids are on the hot lot, and there's noise in there that I can't hear, or the COVID pet is barking next door, and he's
Mm-hmm.
went to work. So now I can't do my job. So as a
Mm-hmm.
result of that, guess what happens now? I'm upset. I'm being mistreated. I'm not being heard. I complain to the board. Nobody listening to me. And as a result, guess what I'm going to do? Is file a claim against the board. Not a lawsuit, but a claim. Okay. Now, eventually, maybe a lawsuit, but right now, I'm filing a claim because guess what? I want my documents. Okay. I want the dog to start barking. I don't think you have the authority to have pickleball courts. All these things happen because of lack of civility that we're seeing today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a trend. It's a big trend that we're
Big
seeing.
trend, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And normally when we do these kind of webinars and everything, where we look at trends and we see what's happening. This is a trend that is going to create major problems in the industry in the future because we're seeing things that we haven't seen before. And I've been doing this for way too many years.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
Yes,
okay, we got
absolutely.
anything else here?
We do. We have some great information to share. I've talked about this in other webinars that we've done in the past.
Mhm.
Just going to mention it again today for people who may be joining us for the first time or not aware that this is available. But for every insured that a traveler's insured that has a community association management liability policy, there is a free risk management hotline that your customers can use. This is a great resource, a great tool. Please share it with all of your customers. That's if they have a traveler's D&O policy. And the phone number is 855-548-8656. It's available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's basically a free 1 hour of risk management assistance from a law firm, Cole, Scott, and Cassane. They'll call you back. They'll discuss the matter for up to 1 hour to help you with your risk management issue. And it's a great, great resource to help you determine if something, to try to maybe nip something in the bud from becoming a claim or reduce the severity of the claim. And so please share this phone number with your customers. And if anybody would like a copy of today's presentation, again, I'll give my email out one more time. It's sherry.branson@amwins.com. Sherry is SHERRY dot Branson, BRANSON @amwins.com. Happy to send you this PowerPoint. So we have a risk management helpline. And then if we have any questions, let's see if we have any in, we do have one question, if any. Oh, we do have a question that's come in, Kevin. How much of the claims are indemnity versus expenses?
Oh, okay. All right. That's a great question. I would say this. When we have our DNO claims, okay, we use the word adjunctive relief a lot. That means we are defending most of these claims. Most claims that we're seeing is we're paying defense costs, defense costs, defense costs. Um, we haven't seen a lot of judgments and a lot of settlements, but we do. But defense, most of our D&O claims we're going to see are defense costs because the claims are more about the board's failure to perform, failure to do the job properly, and as a result, I want the judge to determine um, did they do a good job or not. I don't believe they did a good job. I don't believe they're enforcing the rules right. I don't believe they're right to pass special assessments. I don't believe they're maintaining it correctly. And I'm suing for those reasons. Now, I don't want money. I don't want millions of dollars. I don't want any money. I just want the board to do their job properly because the board right now is not acting in the best interest of the association. A lot of those claims we talked about, I never mentioned, they're looking for judgment. Two of them looking for judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're looking for judgment because they were mistreated. And it goes back to that mistreated part. Once you've been mistreated, you say, okay, I was suffered. I want retribution. I want to be paid. Historically, it was just about a judge saying, guess what? The board failed to have the annual meeting in a timely manner. It should have been 6 weeks. The notice was out in 4 weeks. So you have to have the meeting all over again. No money at all, just defense costs. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Great. Looks like we might have let's see. Now, we do have another one that's come in from Anne Marie Tyler. Thank you so much, Anne Marie, for your question. She wants to know how many times can an insured call the hotline? That's a great question. I don't think I've been asked that before.
Until they tell you to stop.
Until they stop.
Until they tell you to stop.
Until they keep calling until they tell you to
Yeah, it's
stop.
okay. Hello. This number has been disconnected. It's a good question. That's a good question. Again, that's really obvious. I would say I would call them until they tell you that you only have 1 hour one
You've
time.
exceeded your calls.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I
hmm
don't. Yeah, that's
hmm
good. So,
Yeah, just keep calling.
yeah.
Just keep calling.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Any more?
She laughed, LOL. I think that's it. That's it for,
That's
thank
it.
you. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Okay. Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you
guys.
everybody for joining us in the middle of the summer,
Hmm.
for taking time out in your July.
Hmm.
And thanks for joining us and have a great rest of the summer. And we'll see you in the fall.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Take care.